In corporate finance, asset stripping describes a specific, ruthless process. A firm buys a company, sells off its valuable land and equipment to pay down debt, and leaves the original entity behind as a hollowed-out shell. This same logic of extraction is now being deployed against entire populations. Historically, the middle class focused on the single financial goal: building equity. Families worked to accumulate ownership over the assets that provided stability: their homes, their savings, and their future. Modern reality looks very different. Despite working longer hours and producing more economic value than previous generations, today's households find themselves in a state of constant financial drainage. Systemic forces are actively extracting that stored wealth. The Western middle class is currently being asset stripped. To understand the extraction, we have to look at the personal balance sheet. Historically, the assets column was anchored by homeownership, the primary engine of household wealth for decades. Today, massive real estate investment trusts and private equity firms have moved into the residential market. These institutions use their capital scale to systematically outbid families for entry-level homes. High interest rates and inflated prices have created a class of forever renters. Instead of building their own equity, these individuals pay rent into a corporate balance sheet. This shift toward temporary access extends into every corner of life. Subscription models for software and leasing programs for vehicles mean we are losing ownership of the very tools we rely on to function. This completely liquidates the assets column, transitioning the population from a nation of owners into a nation of permanent occupiers. Next, we look at cash reserves. The traditional financial playbook prioritized saving money to provide a buffer for the future. Currency debasement acts as a hidden tax on those savings. If $10,000 sits in a bank while the cost of fuel and housing doubles, your assets lose half their value without you spending a single cent. Massive government debt expansion significantly increases the money supply, which directly devalues the currency sitting in citizen bank accounts. Because the cost of living outpaces wage growth, families are forced to drain rainy day funds just to maintain a baseline standard of living. This process invisibly strips the stored labor of your past to pay for the basic necessities of your present. Turning to the liabilities column, young people now enter the workforce with negative equity, carrying astronomical student loan debt before their first paycheck. The function of debt has shifted. Rather than being used to acquire productive assets, debt is now a survival mechanism. Households increasingly rely on credit cards to cover daily gaps. This crushing liability makes the traditional American dream mathematically impossible for many. The equity required to start a family is being diverted into interest payments. Astronomical costs for healthcare and higher education create an insurmountable barrier to starting a family. When the price of basic stability exceeds the earning potential of a dual-income household, many couples opt out entirely, resulting in a nationwide birth strike. When individuals spend their most productive years paying interest on the cost of their own existence, the system effectively strips a nation of its future. Reviewing the audit shows a clear transition. The traditional middle class used fixed-rate mortgages and interest-bearing savings to build a foundation of ownership. That foundation has been replaced by market-rate rents, devaluing currency, and high-interest debt bondage. This shift is a systemic funnel, moving the wealth of a nation into the hands of the large institutions that control the land and the currency. If we fail to recognize this balance sheet inversion, the Western citizen will be permanently downgraded from an owner of their country into a mere tenant within it.